The studio lights cast a warm glow over the set of The Steve Harvey Show. The audience, buzzing with anticipation, settled in as Steve adjusted his suit and flashed his signature wide grin. "All right, folks," he said, his deep voice carrying the room. "We got something special today." A producer handed him a sleek black envelope. Steve frowned slightly, his fingers tracing the golden seal. "Now, what's this?" he murmured, his curiosity piqued. He tore it open, pulled out a card, and scanned the words. His expression shifted. His usual playful energy dimmed, replaced by something heavier. Silence hung in the air. The audience sensed something unusual. Steve, always the composed entertainer, looked genuinely taken aback. His eyes flickered up, searching the room as if trying to process what he had just read. This can't be real," he muttered under his breath, shaking his head. Then, louder, "Who set this up?" He wasn't laughing anymore. The producer gestured towards the screen behind him. The lights dimmed slightly, and the massive LED wall flickered to life. The moment it did, the entire room gasped. There he was, Keanu Reeves, dressed in his usual effortless style, black blazer, a simple gray shirt underneath, his hair slightly tousled, that signature scruff on his face. But what stood out the most was his expression. Software. Sincere. Unmistakably personal. "Hey, Steve!" Keanu's voice filled the studio. It wasn't a rehearsed Hollywood speech. It wasn't a generic celebrity shout-out. It was real. Steve leaned forward, elbows on his desk, his hands clasped together as if bracing himself. "I don't usually do this," Keanu continued, a faint smile playing on his lips. "But I had to reach out. Because there's something I think you should know." The audience sat frozen. The energy in the room shifted. This wasn't just another feel-good segment. Something big was about to happen. Steve's fingers tightened around the card in his hands. His eyes flickered between the screen and the silent audience, his chest rising and falling in measured breaths. Something about Keanu's voice, calm, deliberate, felt different. This wasn't just appreciation. This was personal. "You see, Steve," Keanu continued, his eyes holding a quiet intensity. "Years ago, before The Matrix, before any of it, I was in a rough place, lost, struggling." Steve's brow furrowed. The audience leaned in. This wasn't a story they had heard before. "I was sitting in a small diner," Keanu went on, his voice steady but distant, as if he were reliving the memory. "I had no direction, no clue what was next for me. And then, I overheard this conversation. A man, talking about life, about pushing through the struggle, about keeping your faith when things don't make sense." Keanu chuckled softly. "It was one of the most inspiring things I'd ever heard. And you know who that man was?" Steve's breath hitched. His fingers twitched. His lips parted slightly, as if his body already knew the answer before his mind could catch up. Keanu's eyes softened. "It was you, Steve." The audience gasped. Steve blinked rapidly, his hand instinctively covering his mouth. "You weren't famous yet," Keanu continued. "You weren't on TV. You were just another struggling comedian, pouring your heart out to a friend at that little diner. But you had no idea that a young actor at the next table was listening, and that your words saved him." Silence. Thick, heavy, charged. Steve exhaled sharply, his hands trembling slightly. He tried to speak, but nothing came out. He swallowed, glancing away for a moment, his eyes glossy. Keanu's voice softened. "I never got to thank you, Steve. Not until now." Steve let out a broken chuckle, shaking his head. "Man." His voice was barely above a whisper. The audience was stunned. This wasn't just a celebrity tribute. This was a twist of fate. A moment neither man saw coming. And it wasn't over yet. Steve leaned back in his chair, exhaling like a man who had just been hit by a memory he didn't even know existed. His fingers rubbed against his chin, his mind racing back to those days, The struggle, the uncertainty, the countless times he sat in diners, talking about dreams that felt impossible. I... He stopped, shaking his head, his voice caught in his throat. He looked back at the screen, his eyes locking onto Keanu's. Man, I don't even know what to say. Keanu's lips curled into a knowing smile. You don't have to say anything, Steve. You already did, all those years ago. The weight of those words settled in the air, thick with emotion. And then Keanu leaned in slightly, his expression shifting, more serious now. But Steve, there's more. The audience murmured. More? Steve straightened up, his heart pounding. Man, don't play with me right now. His voice was light, teasing, but his eyes held something else. Anticipation. Maybe even a little fear. Keanu sighed, glancing down for a second, as if choosing his next words carefully. A few months after that night at the diner, I got my first big audition. He let out a small chuckle. I wasn't even sure if I should go. I thought, what's the point? They're not going to pick me. Steve nodded, understanding that feeling all too well. But I remembered what you said that night, about how God gives you a gift, and it's your job to use it, even when nobody else sees it yet. Keanu's voice grew softer. So I went. And that audition, it changed everything. The room was dead silent. Steve blinked. Wait a minute. He leaned forward, his hands flat on the desk. You're telling me that was for The Matrix? Keanu nodded, a slow, meaningful movement. Steve slapped the desk, half laughing, half in shock. Man, you gotta be kidding me. Keanu chuckled. I'm not. Then, his eyes darkened just a little. But that's not all. Steve stilled. The audience held their breath. Keanu exhaled. I went through a lot after that. Lost people I loved. Faced things I never thought I'd survive. And in those moments, Steve, your words came back to me. Again and again. He swallowed. You never knew it, but you weren't just some guy in a diner. You became a voice in my head, reminding me to keep going. Steve pressed his fingers to his lips, his shoulders rising with a shaky breath. Keanu nodded. And now, all these years later, I get to sit here and tell you that, Steve, that you changed my life. And I'm not the only one. The audience was silent, hanging on every word. Keanu leaned back, his face softening. That's why I'm here today, to give back what you gave me. Steve finally let out a small, breathless laugh. Man, he wiped his eyes quickly. You got me. You really got me. The moment lingered. The energy in the room had shifted completely. But this story wasn't finished yet. Something else was coming, and no one was ready for it. Steve took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. The audience was locked in, their eyes flicking between him and the massive screen where Keanu's face remained calm, steady, like a man about to drop one final revelation. Then Keanu exhaled and leaned in slightly. That's why I'm here today, Steve. To give back. Steve tilted his head. Man, what do you mean? He let out a small, nervous chuckle. Keanu, I swear, if you tell me you bought me a car or something, I'm walking off this stage. Laughter rippled through the audience, but Keanu just smiled. No, Steve, not a car. A pause. Then, I'm starting a foundation. Steve's brow furrowed. A foundation. Keanu nodded. A mentorship program for young kids chasing impossible dreams. Actors, comedians, writers, kids who don't have a way in, who just need one voice telling them to keep going. He paused. The way you did for me. The audience gasped. Steve's mouth parted slightly. He blinked, processing the words. Man. His voice was hoarse. Keanu continued, his tone unwavering. It's called the Harvey Initiative. Silence. Heavy. Thick. A moment suspended in time. Steve's lips trembled as he tried to form words. But there were none. Just pure, raw emotion. His hands covered his face for a second, his shoulders rising and falling. Then, when he finally looked back up, his eyes were glassy. "You named it after me?" Keanu nodded. "Because without you, it wouldn't exist." The studio erupted. Applause. Cheers. Some even wiping their own eyes. Steve exhaled sharply and shook his head, his smile breaking through the emotion. "Man, you're something else, Keanu. You really are." Keanu chuckled. "Takes one to know one." Steve let out a laugh, shaking his head. "All right. I need a break before y'all make me cry on national TV again." The audience roared with laughter. The heaviness lifted just a little, replaced by warmth. Steve looked back at the screen, at Keanu, and for a moment, nothing needed to be said. Just two men, one who had unknowingly changed a life, and one who had never forgotten. Some stories don't need endings. They just come full circle.